Hey everyone, welcome back to CyberSecurityTV. This week we will continue our AWS security series, and this is going to be an episode 8, and we'll talk about the shared responsibility model. Now, this is essential to know because if you are dealing in the cloud and if you are a customer or user of the AWS, you should know what your responsibility is and versus what the AWS responsibility is as far as the security goes. So let's get into it. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos. So the first thing is, this is on the AWS website, and this gives you a little bit of details. What is the customer versus AWS is responsible for? Now, if you see this top section where it says customer responsibility is security in the cloud. That means whatever you have in the cloud will be responsible, is the responsibility of the customer or the user. For the AWS, it says responsibility for security of the cloud. So all the compute, storage, and database and networking, all the stuff is responsibility, and securing those things is responsibility of the AWS. Now, I have broke it down into 3 different services to better describe what they meant by security in the cloud versus security of the cloud. So the first one, we're going to talk about the infrastructure services. And when we say infrastructure services, services like the VPC, EC2, EBS, and auto scaling. Now, all of this are the infrastructure services provided by the AWS. Now, what the AWS is responsible for? So they're responsible for the global infrastructure, like managing or creating the regions, availability zones, edge locations, and then the foundation service such as compute, storage, database, and networking. So this is all the off the cloud, like security off the cloud. So they build all this infrastructure, and of course, whatever the hardware that this infrastructure runs on, that's everything AWS responsibility in terms of managing and securing those that infrastructure and services. Now, what the user or customer responsibility is, whatever is in the cloud. So whatever the customer data that you put into the services or infrastructure, that's responsible to the user. Then, such as platform applications, OS and network configuration, patching, creating the security groups, network access control, because AWS by default does not create all those things, and of course each user and customer create their own, so they are responsible for that. Customer IAM, so password, access keys, permission. We have gone over what are the best practices for IAM in the previous videos. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend to do it. But yeah, that's something that the user and customer are responsible for. And additional, that's the data encryption and integrity. So based on whatever the compliance requirement is and whatever the policy of the user or customer is, they have to take care of the encryption of the data that you're using within the AWS or security in the cloud. The next one is the container service. So this is the service like RDS, EMR, and the ECS. That's a EC2 cluster service. Now here the AWS is responsible for platform and applications, OS and network configuration, global infrastructure, and the foundation service from derived from the infrastructure services that we just discussed. Now here the customer responsibility is the data that you put inside, in the services. Then the IAM, access to these services, because you will have to control the access of the services. So that's why it's a user responsibility. And of course, encryption integrity will be responsible of the user in the container services as well. The last one is the abstracted services, and the abstracted services I would consider is like a DynamoDB, S3, and Lambda. This is more of like a fully managed AWS services because they will take care of the network traffic protection. So when you have when it's communicating between the DynamoDB or to S3, the SSL and encrypting all those traffic will be responsibility of the AWS. Then the OS and network configuration, global infrastructure, foundation service, of course, compute, storage, database, networking of these services will be responsibility of the AWS securing those. and platform application will also be taken care by the AWS. The user responsibility here is the data in transit and client side. So, for example, if you are passing data back and forth from S3 and storing at rest on S3, and if you want to secure the data, that's up to the customer. How AWS does not do that by default. Next is IAM. Again, it's a similar. So any of the services who should have access to what needs to be configured by the user and customer. And lastly, the data encryption integrity, which is applicable to all three services layers. So this is kind of important and to understand, because when you are configuring or when you are an architect of the cloud, or you're starting to using AWS, sometimes people take so many things for granted. They think that AWS will take care of the security for this, and because they have outsourced everything to AWS, but that is not the case. Like if you closely observe their this shared responsibility model, you should be able to understand, like, whatever it says in the customer that you are responsible for, and you make sure as a security engineer or as an AppSec engineer or as an architect, you make sure that these are the things that you have thought before moving to the cloud, and you have right policies and procedures in place. So that's something I wanted to discuss before we move forward and discuss about the details in the AWS security. I thought this is a good lesson for everyone to know. Let me know if you have any comments, anything, any suggestions. I'm open for comments as always. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.